Let's talk about a skill that sounds really simple but is, believe me, incredibly easy to mess up, making vulnerability reports that aren't just accurate, but are actually defensible. We're going to cover the common mistakes that just torpedo your credibility and, way more importantly, how to build reports that lead to real fixes.
I'm just going to put my hand up and say it. This was me. I absolutely thought that mapping a software version to a list of vulnerabilities was just a simple lookup. You grab the version string, you paste it into whatever tool you're using, and you export the CVE list. It felt fast, it felt efficient, and man, was it naive.
6 minutes. Yep, that is exactly how long it took for my very big, very accurate risk report to get quietly and politely torn to shreds by a senior engineer. Just 6 minutes of calm questions and the whole thing just fell apart.
And that's the part that really stings, right? It wasn't about being embarrassed in a meeting. It was the sinking feeling when I realized my super confident recommendations would have sent the entire engineering team on a wild goose chase, wasting hours, maybe days, fixing problems that weren't even real.
So let's actually start with that story, because that 6-minute takedown completely changed how I approach reporting. It's a classic tale of confidence running headfirst into cold, hard reality.
I can still picture it. I'm sitting there, all proud of my color-coded, highlighted report. He flips right to the Apache section and just asks that one simple question. My answer was fast, it was confident, and it was 100% wrong. He just quietly opened a terminal and showed me a little note about a backported fix, which meant the security patch was already there, even though the main version number hadn't changed. The room didn't get loud or tense, it just got really, really quiet.
And that right there was the lesson. The real failure wasn't that I didn't know about backports. It was that I used a tone of absolute certainty when the evidence itself was, well, kind of shaky. I learned that day that using precise, honest language is worth its weight in gold compared to false confidence.
Okay, so that whole experience got me thinking about the common traps we all fall into in this line of work. So let's walk through what I think are the 7 most brutal mistakes that can absolutely wreck a vulnerability report before it even gets read.
We're going to hit some real classics here. Like trusting those server banners a little too much, completely forgetting about backported patches, or ignoring whether a vulnerable feature is even turned on. And of course, probably the biggest one of them all, sounding like you're 100% sure when really you're making an educated guess.
This slide right here shows the single biggest credibility killer, backports. On the left, you've got the upstream version. It looks old, it looks vulnerable. But over on the right, that's what the vendor actually shipped. It often has the security fix already patched in, without changing that main version number. If you ignore this difference, you're not writing a security report, you're writing ghost stories, and you're wasting everybody's time.
This quote just nails it. If your critical list is 30 items long, you don't have a priority list, you have a panic poem. Just dumping a huge list of CVEs on a team without any context doesn't help them prioritize. It just creates paralysis. Our job isn't just to find stuff, it's to show the team which things pose a real, immediate risk.
So how do you fix that problem of sounding overconfident? You get precise with your language. Using a system like this, observed, inferred, speculative, doesn't make your report weaker. It actually makes it a whole lot stronger because it's way harder to dismiss. You're showing your work and you're respecting the uncertainty of the situation. Okay, so this all leads to the core idea, the mental model that really changes the game. Instead of thinking about this as just a simple version match, we're going to reframe it as climbing a ladder of evidence.
So the big question is, how do you avoid my 6-minute takedown? How do you create something that actually stands up to scrutiny from a skeptical engineer who is short on time and has seen 1,000 noisy reports just like it before?
The answer is using what I call the evidence ladder. It's a really simple idea. You structure your analysis by moving from the weakest clues, like say a server banner, up to the strongest forms of proof, like actual package metadata. You're not just matching a string anymore, you're building a defensible argument, piece by piece. This lays out the path perfectly. You start at the bottom with those weak banner hints. Then you climb a rung and add context. Is this thing even facing the internet? Then you check the config. Is the vulnerable feature actually enabled? You try to confirm the runtime path. And finally, you reach the top, the gold standard, direct package verification. Every single step up this ladder makes your finding that much more solid. All right, enough theory. Let's make this super practical. Here's how you can apply all this thinking right now on your very next report using a workflow that's built for people who, don't have all day to investigate one thing.
This is it, a simple 10-minute workflow that puts the evidence ladder into practice. In just 10 minutes, you can dramatically improve the quality of a finding. Notice how little time is actually spent just grabbing the version, and how much more is spent on context and verification. And it all leads to that final minute, writing one clear sentence that honestly states your level of confidence.
This template is basically your secret weapon because it answers the two questions every engineer is thinking before they even ask. How do you know? And so what do you want me to do? Using careful phrases like appears to match and explicitly saying when verification isn't available isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of professional precision. So, at the end of the day, a trusted report isn't the one with the longest list of CVEs. It's the one that clearly explains the exposure context, understands the runtime reality of how the software is configured, and uses language that honestly reflects how strong the evidence really is.
So as we wrap this up, I'm just going to leave you with this one question. The next time you're about to hit send on a vulnerability report, just take one last look. Ask yourself, have you built a structured, defensible argument based on a ladder of evidence, or are you just shipping a list of educated guesses? Because that answer makes all the difference in the world.